Hi, I'm Jen. With 2016 being over, I thought it'd be a great time to review some of my favorite books that I read this past year. Quick clarification, these books are not necessarily books that came out in 2016. Some of them are, but some of them are just books that I read in 2016 that I really liked. I'm going to do my best with pronunciation, but I do apologize if I mess up any of the authors' names. I'll put in the description their names written out. That way, if you want to find the books, give them a try, which I highly recommend you do. You can find them easily. Okay, let's get started. One of my favorite books this year was Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. I believe that's how you say it. So this is a poetry book. I honestly fell for it because of the title, and I also just have a thing for bees, so the bees on the cover really attracted me. But it's a beautiful book. It's divided into 4 different parts, and it's the hurting, the loving, the breaking, and the healing. And so it's the author's journey told in poems through abusive relationships, finding love, finding heartbreak, and then learning to love herself. And it's a really empowering book. If you're on Pinterest or Tumblr, you might have seen some of the poems shared on it, because there's a lot about self-love that have been very popular. Even if you're not a huge poetry person, I think this book is just amazing. It's all free verse, so nothing fancy, no crazy rhyme scheme. The author includes little pictures that they drew themselves, like, as you can see, to kind of like help illustrate what they're trying to say. And it's just a beautiful story, and it really hits home the idea of you have to learn to love yourself first before you can be in a healthy relationship. And I think that's something that a lot of people do need to read, and it's told beautifully. This year I tried the graphic novel Persepolis, The Story of a Childhood, and this is by Marjane Satrapi. And so it is a graphic novel, so if you look, it's kind of like a comic book. And this was the first time I'd ever read an adult graphic novel, so I was a little bit dubious. I was curious to see if I would like it, and I actually really enjoyed it. This story is about a girl growing up in the Middle East. I didn't really know a ton about the history beforehand, so I did look a little bit up, just using Wikipedia or the, common sites on the internet, just to kind of get an idea of the years. But, so this girl is growing up in Iran, and it really gives a good illustration, because we hear so much about issues in the Middle East on the news, but this book kind of gave me more of an idea of what happened to the individuals and the uncertainty they felt. And I actually really enjoyed the graphic novel aspect. It was a different read. I like to mix it up. So it was a really good change of pace. So if you want to try one, I highly recommend this one, especially if you're interested in more historical fiction. This has happened in the past 10 years, I believe. So it's not super past historical fiction, but it's really enjoyable, and it'll give you a much better understanding of what's happening. At least that's what it did for me. So this past year I joined a book club, and we read I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. And so this is a paperback version. The regular version that most people see has kind of this starburst design on the inside cover. This was one of my favorite books. You know when you're reading a book and you come across the line that literally takes your breath away, and you're just like, wow, that is so deep, that was so beautifully written. That literally happened every single page of this book. This book makes me want to be a better writer, and books that do that just blow me away. So this story is actually about 2 twins, a boy and a girl, and they're both artists, and they're really close. And what happens is, you are reading the story from the boy's point of view, but then it alternates to the girl's point of view 3 years in the future. And they're no longer close. A lot of drama has happened. Their mom's passed away. They don't keep in touch. One of them has quit art. In the whole book, you're kind of trying to figure out what's happened in these 3 years that brought them to this point, and it alternates points of view. The boy is struggling. He is realizing that he is gay, and he's kind of coming to terms with that. The girl's having issues mourning her mother's death, finding what kind of artist she wants to be. And so if you're an artist, this book is going to be so interesting. If you're not, it's still an amazing read, totally quick read. It's a young adult book, but I think anyone of any age could enjoy it. I recommended it to my mother, who's an English teacher, and she loved it as well. So I highly recommend this. It's a great book club read if your book club is looking for anything like that. And I cannot say enough good things about it. Like I said, it's just beautifully written, it's a great story, and the way the author tells it is just amazing. So this year I read 1000 White Women by Jim Fergus. This is an older book. I found it at a used bookstore and I'd never heard of it, but the name just kind of jumped out at me. I was like, interesting. And so it is actually, I wouldn't call it historical fiction. It's almost like a what if of historical fiction. Back when America was trying to make peace with Native American tribes in the West, there was a proposal that the Native Americans asked for 1,000 white women to be sent to them so that they could, start making relationships, start having children that were half Native American, half white. And this book is about what would happen if that had actually occurred, which is a really interesting premise for a book. It's the story of May Dodd, and she goes to the West to be a wife of these Native American men in order to escape an insane asylum. And it's about her story of finding love and joining their culture. It's very well researched, and it's really interesting. I love historical fiction. I'm a big fan. So this kind of alternative what if possibility of historical fiction was really interesting. It's a great story. May is a hilarious character. She wears her heart on her sleeve. She takes the world by storm, and especially for the time period where this is set, she's just truly an amazing character that I want to be more like. And this book just grabbed me and kept me interested, and it was a really fun read, so I highly recommend it. So for Christmas, I got Scrappy Little Nobody, which is the book by Anna Kendrick, who, if you don't know her, she's in Twilight, Pitch Perfect, a lot of movies. Up in the Air was a big one for her, Into the Woods. She's a very talented actress and singer, and she's a very talented writer. I read this, I was really excited because I'm a big fan of her work, so I was excited to kind of read what she thought, but now I am a huge fan of her writing. She is hilarious. As a young woman, she talks a lot about herself growing up in high school, balancing trying to pursue a career in show business while dealing with high school drama, and then going into her 20s, being in LA, her relationships. She has a lot of funny dating stories. She goes through a bunch of the different movies she's been in, so if you're a fan, it's going to be great to kind of read her experiences in Twilight or what her first audition was like. I actually learned, I didn't know this about her, she was a child actress, so she started quite young, and I did not know that, so it was actually really fun to read. But even if you're not a fan, it's hilarious. If you're a younger woman, you'll be able to relate to her so much. She just describes how everyone just feels weird, and she's kind of learned to embrace the craziness inside her, and her dating stories, how she sees herself, it's all so relatable. And what I find amazing is, even to this day, with her being such a household name, she still doesn't quite feel like she's made it. She doesn't feel safe or that she's a true celebrity. She talks about geeking out when she meets other celebrities, like when she performed with Neil Patrick Harris at the Oscars, which was a performance that I loved. So reading about it was so fun. But it's such a fun read. It's a quick read. I read it in less than a day. Because it's just so humorous, and it's almost like talking to your best friend, swapping embarrassing stories. So I highly recommend, if you're in your 20s and you're still trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, if you're a fan of Anna Kendrick, you're going to love it. If you have seen any of her tweets on Twitter with her ridiculous, sarcastic, kind of crude sense of humor, that's what you have in store in this book. So if you like that, check it out. So this past year was really good for me. 2016 was a really great year for me reading-wise. I had a Goodreads challenge. Goodreads is a book reading app where you can challenge yourself every year to read a certain amount of books. I challenged myself to read 33 books, which I just finished about 4 days before the new year, and I just loved it. These 5 books were some of my favorites that I read in 2016, so I hope some of them piqued your interest, and I highly recommend you check them out. Well, I hope you all have a happy year, and I hope that 2017 is filled with some really great reads for you all. Bye!